I really don't know how much I've donated, but I know that I've been a blood donor for 4 decades. I started donating blood in the 1970s. My husband was a faithful and regular donor, and he finally encouraged me to start too. So now I do a blood donation on the anniversary of his passing every year. I know that I'm the kind of person that likes to do things for other people. And donating blood is a very special gift I have learned through the years. Despite all the medical advances we have, we cannot duplicate human blood. Human blood can save lives. There is always a need for blood. And in reality, only 3 to 4% of the people, our population, donate blood on a regular basis. There's much more need than that. So there constantly is an appeal for new donors. Also, think about it, I've been donating for 4 decades. The pool that is here today of people regularly donating is aging. We need to recruit new donors, and we need to replenish the blood supply on a regular basis. I think most people that have never given blood, well, there are excuses and there's reasons. Some people have a fear of needles, and that keeps them from even considering it. Some people are scared of the process. They are unfamiliar with what is done in the center or in the blood bus to take your blood and for you to donate. All of these things can be solved by just becoming more aware of the process. And some people say they just don't have enough time. I absolutely feel that I make a difference in donating blood. No one in my family or my friends had actually had a great need for blood until my son was in a boating accident in August of 2004. He was life-flighted to a trauma center in Gainesville. He was given the gift of life. Some very gifted doctors really saved his leg for him, and 14 people that I do not even know donated blood. As we were sitting there in the waiting room for him and when he was in trauma surgery, a nurse came running down the hallway with an armful of blood. It crystallized in my brain, that's going for my son. That's going to save my son's life tonight.
My job role at Life South as the regional director is to oversee the daily collections, processing, and distribution of the blood to the hospitals. Hospitals typically keep about a 3-day supply on their shelves. The units keep the same shelf life that they would have in our blood center, unless they're manipulated in some way. We try to have at least 3 days supply of blood on the shelf at any given time, and that's of all red blood cells, platelets, plasma, and each one has a different shelf life. They start with the most tender of the products would be our platelets, and they have a shelf life of only 5 days because they're very susceptible to bacteria. We can only keep them for 5 days, and they're kept at room temperature. Red blood cells are able to be kept in the refrigerator, and they're good for up to 42 days. And then plasma is frozen, and it's good for a year. So we usually have pretty good supplies of plasma on hand. They're replenished at the rate of, with the big hospitals, daily. Sometimes 3 and 4 times a day if we have somewhere using a lot of blood due to traumas or surgeries, we might replenish them 6-7 times a day. The blood collection process can happen in a couple different locations. We have fixed sites as well as blood mobiles that will go out to businesses, schools, hospitals, and we set up blood drives right alongside the business, and sometimes even inside the business we can go inside and use one of their areas to set up what we call a ride system, which is a special set of chairs that are developed just for blood donors, and we use them it's kind of like taking the blood mobile or the fixed site inside the business, and we can set up there. And then it's the same process. The blood is collected by gravity into a collection bag, a sterile collection bag, and then it's taken back to our components lab where it's processed and put into its proper storage device on the same day it's collected. And then typically the next day, the return of the lab results are done, and then we're able to label it and put the blood type on it and send it out to a hospital. It's a pretty quick turnaround from collection to distribution back to the hospital. We like to allow 72 hours, but typically we can do it within 24 to 36. I think the biggest reason people have a fear of donating is because of that needle, and people, oh, I don't like needles, but honestly, who does? Needles are no fun, but it can be scary to people, and I think once people do it one time and find that they're fine after it, it was no big deal, that they're more readily to come back when they're eligible, and in times like now, where we're very desperate for blood donations. Another reason people don't donate, and we've actually polled donors and asked them, why have you never donated before? And they'll say, because no one ever asked me. So we try to make a point with recruiting donors to ask, would you please donate blood today? And it's amazing how just asking can get people interested and start asking some more questions, and then start getting over that fear of the needle. Before you know it, you have a blood donor for life.
My job at Life South is I'm a donor service team leader 3. I'm in charge of coming in, getting all the stuff, so supplies ready for the blood drive. Responsible for driving to the blood drives, overseeing the blood drives, making sure they run smoothly, everybody's doing what they need to do, and make sure that we are meeting goal. We have a daily goal that we have to meet each day, and it's important that we make it. In order to donate blood, you have to weigh at least 110 pounds. You have to be at least 16 years of age with a parent consent. You have to have a photo ID with you. Limitations, there's not really a whole lot that will limit you. We have a questionnaire that we ask, and there's certain medications and stuff on there that you'll look at and see if you are taking anything. But for the most part, there's not really any limitations unless, like say, you happen to answer yes to one of the questions, or you happen to be taking one of the medications on the deferral list. I think the low attendance from donors just has to do with a lot of people are afraid of needles. That's the most common reason we get why people don't donate. And the other reason being lack of knowledge. I don't think people realize how important giving blood is and what prevents them from being able to give blood. A lot of people think, oh, if they have high blood pressure they can't give, or if they take pain pills they can't give, which isn't true. There's actually not a lot of medication that you can take that will stop you from giving blood. So I think if they had more knowledge of the blood process and just the questions that we ask, they would realize that they could actually donate blood. Donating blood only takes about half an hour, and that's from start to finish. That's from you coming on the bus, we get you registered in our computer, we take you back into our interview room where we ask you 52 questions that have to do with your travel history and your health, and some personal questions. We do like a little mini physical. We do your blood pressure, your pulse, your temperature, and then we check your hemoglobin. Once you pass all that, then we take you out into the chair where we stick you. Actually, giving blood itself only takes roughly 5 to 10 minutes. It's just having to answer all the questions to make sure your blood is safe to give to someone. And the blood types that are most needed, I would say, would be O negative. O negative is what we call our universal donor, which means the red cells can go to anybody. It gets used a lot, especially like in trauma. If somebody goes into the emergency room, they don't have time to type them, they'll give them O negative. Also, AB, plasma, and platelets, we need those really, really bad also. So it depends on what blood type you are. Pretty much depends on what we need. My most memorable moment is when people come up to me at blood drives and they actually take the time to stop and thank us and tell us how much they appreciate what we do, that if it wasn't for us out here collecting the blood, their loved one wouldn't be here. So that makes me feel good about what I do.
Here at Life South, the laboratories that I'm involved with are responsible for the quality of our products. We ensure the safety, the purity, and the potency of the products that we produce. And we put in an extraordinary amount of work to make sure that the products that we make and send out are the highest quality, and that when they go to a hospital, they can go to a patient and contain a good therapeutic dose. And there's a lot of work that goes into ensuring that. So a unit of donated blood, from the time it is collected, we'll have testing completed and its processing done within 24 hours. So that blood is ready to go basically the next day. A single unit of donated blood has the potential to be divided into 3 separate components. The red cell portion of the blood, which is primarily what we think of during a transfusion. But there's also plasma, which has its needs for transfusion also. And then the platelets, the platelet fraction is also used, and all of these things can be used therapeutically. Expectant mothers, consider that the umbilical cord blood that is effectively going to be discarded. We have a program where we can use that and harvest valuable blood stem cells from that cord blood, and something that is basically medical waste, we can turn it into a product that can be a stem cell transplant for somebody with all these terrible cancers. And it's a cord blood donation is also very important. Yeah, keep in mind that a single unit of donated blood is going to be divided into its separate components, and those have the potential to go to 3 separate patients, and you have the ability to make a difference in the lives of 3 patients off of your 1 blood donation. The potential that you have to make in someone else's life can be their life. I, in fact, am a recipient. I had a major accident, nearly lost my leg, and if it were not for the 14 units of blood that were transfused into me, I would have died.
It took us a long time to get pregnant. We were ecstatic when we found out we were having twins. Very, very happy. I was high risk because I had a pacemaker placed when I was 33, but other than that, normal pregnancy, everything was going good. Then I developed preeclampsia, and they had to take the babies probably, I think, 2 weeks early. They were 35 weeks and 6 days. So we weren't expecting that. Delivery went fine. Babies were good. Miles had a little breathing issues in the beginning, but he was okay, and Sophie was good. They both weighed over 4 pounds. I was okay. After the delivery, I did not feel well, and they had to monitor me a little bit because my blood pressure kept climbing and I kept having headaches. So they put me on magnesium because they were worried that I was going to have a seizure, which I did have. I think a couple hours after the delivery, and then my blood level started to drop, but they weren't sure where I was bleeding for, so then they found out I developed HELP syndrome, where I kept lysing my own cells, so my body was kind of attacking itself. So I think initially I received 2 units of blood, felt much better afterwards. Color in my face, I could actually get up, help my husband, breastfeed the twins. And then they had to stay initially a little bit longer than we expected because Miles didn't pass his car seat test. So I was actually discharged before they were. And I didn't have any energy when we went home. I felt like something was wrong. I felt like this is not normal. I've never had babies before, but I felt like this is extreme fatigue. So we went to visit the babies in the nursery because I had some breast milk I wanted to give them, and my husband had to get a wheelchair. I could barely walk. And we swung by the OB's office, and he was very concerned, checked my blood levels in the office, and he readmitted me, and I received another unit of blood. I never realized how important it was to donate blood until it actually happened to me. I've been an ER nurse for 8 years. I've given multiple units of blood to trauma patients, but I never really had that connection. I was thankful for the donors, but I never really understood how important it was until it happened to me, until I realized how sick I was, and without that blood, my babies might not have me here. So I'm very thankful.